What's up, you weirdos? Fever here. Hope everyone is doing fantastic. This video is going to be a little bit different today because we're going to talk about the new seasonal mods and what I think is, well, I don't want to say the best way to utilize them. I'll never tell you something is the best. We'll just go with a good way to utilize them. How's that sound? If you don't know what I'm talking about, there are some new mods that came out with Season 13. 6 to be exact. You can get them from the Helm, which is the new, I don't know what to call it, social space. I don't feel very social when I'm in there. In fact, I feel alone and cold, like a newborn baby or something. Especially with Crow hanging out in there, like he's trying to sell you a stolen tricycle. Dude's creepy. Anyways, yeah, so these new mods. It's no secret that they're a bit lackluster on their own, and I always see the question of how or what's the best way to use them. It pops up from friends and with some of the streams I moderate. Quite a bit actually. It seems like a lot of players don't utilize them, or if they do, they don't know how to use them in conjunction with other mods and exotics, which is where they shine. They're almost like a support class for your mods, if that makes any bit of sense. I've been putting builds together and making videos using them, but one thing I've noticed is that they never work well by themselves. What I mean by that is, they don't work well when you only have these mods equipped in their own little ecosystem. I have tried every which way, but they don't seem to put their big boy pants on until you add something else with it, like a perk on a weapon or some charged light mods. Once you do that, it seems like they start synergizing very well. This could have been Bungie's intentions all along. Just so you know, I'm probably going to say the word synergize a lot because it makes me feel smart and I just like the word. I want to do a karate kick every time I say it. Even if you do pair them with some other mods and exotics, they aren't game breaking or anything like that. To me, they seem like they're more if you want to change up the normal routine, which is something I promote heavily on this channel because I really am tired of using the same builds for everything. We all know nothing's going to beat a Warmind cell, so I try to have fun with what's new and available. I haven't found a place for 2 of these mods yet, except for maybe something like burst damage, but I'm still working on that. These 2 sometimes make me feel like Bungie just threw them in there to say, hey, we put mods in the season. And unfortunately, all these new mods can be crapped on by Warmind and Charged Light, which is kind of sad. We're going to go over the 6 mods and break them down. After that, I'll give you an example of how these mods can synergize with other builds. There's that word again. And hopefully everyone could take something away from this and get those creative juices flowing. I can't believe I just said creative juices, but here we are and I'm leaving it in the video. All these mods say the same thing at the top. Picking up an elemental well grants energy to your ability with the lowest current energy. Picking up an elemental well whose element matches your subclass damage type grants energy to all your abilities. This means if you pick up an elemental well that matches your subclass, whether it be void, solar, arc, or stasis, it will buff the recharge rate of all your abilities. If you pick up an elemental well that does not match your subclass, it will buff the recharge rate of the lowest ability. These little wells look like the attrition pools of light, except they have an elemental color to them. Alright, the first mod is Elemental Light. Defeating a combatant with your super spawns an elemental well that matches your subclass energy type. Pretty self-explanatory, right? Well, all of them are actually. The next mod is Elemental Ordnance. Defeating a combatant with a grenade spawns an elemental well that matches your subclass energy type. I got this to proc quite often actually, but sometimes it did take a little longer, so I don't know, RNG I guess. Font of Wisdom is the next mod. This one says, picking up an elemental well that matches your subclass energy type grants you a temporary significant increase in your intellect, improving the recharge rate of your super. This mod doesn't give you a ton of super energy when you're just standing still and not killing anything, only like 10 to 15 seconds shaved off. It does its best work when you're mobbing ads. You'll start seeing a jump in your super energy fast. The next mod is Elemental Charge. Become charged with light by picking up an elemental well. If the elemental well's element type matches your subclass element, you gain 2 stacks of charge with light. This is a good one because you can get 2 stacks of charge with light for free. The last 2 mods are the ones I'm not sure about yet. I know how they work, but I'm trying to find the best way to optimize them and use in other builds. They almost seem like they would be really good with the sword or something along those lines. The first one is Elemental Armaments. This mod reads, weapon takedowns with a damage type that matches your subclass element have an escalating chance to spawn an elemental well. This is cool and all, but unless you're doing a niche build, it's not something you'd go out of your way to achieve. The next one is Font of Might. This mod reads, picking up an elemental well that matches your subclass energy type grants a temporary bonus to weapon damage of the same element type. From what it looks like, it's about 10 to 15% buff for 6 seconds, and this is what I was referring to about the burst damage. If you can get that to proc and then hit a boss with a sword, it might do some serious damage, but like I said, I'm still testing that one. Alright, let's talk about how to utilize these mods. After all the playtesting I've done and just flat out goofing around, these mods are great when you're not paying attention or going out of your way to make them work. Like I said earlier, they're more like a support class for your other mods, which sounds really odd, but all these little boosts to your abilities and super, they start adding up fast, to the point of where it seemed like sometimes I didn't even have a cooldown on my abilities. I'm going to use my Titan as an example for this video, but don't worry, this applies to all 3 classes of Guardians. And no, it's not because he's my favorite character, I just happen to be on my Titan, so he's up to bat. See my thick boy Titan? His stats aren't that great with the armor and mods I got equipped, but all the gameplay footage you see in the background is with this exact setup. I could easily get multiple supers in this one lost sector having these crappy stats. If you combine 3 of the new helm mods like Elemental Charge, Elemental Light, and Font of Wisdom with Energy Converter, which is a Charge Light mod, and one of the seasonal artifact mods called Glacial Inheritance, you end up with a pretty potent build on its own. If you were to add the Heart of Inmost Light, you really step up the game on getting your abilities back fast, especially since all these seem to be stackable. And while we're on the subject of Energy Converter, this Charge Light mod states it gives you up to 50% of your super back, but the way Bungie worded it is a little misleading. It doesn't mean every time you consume the stacks of Charge with Light that you can get 50% of your super. It means it will give you super energy up until the 50% point of your super bar. Once you have 50% of your super, we'll quit consuming stacks of Charge with Light. Just wanted to put that out there, clarify it for anyone. Alright, now back to my Titan. If you were to add the aspects and fragments from the Stasis subclass, this piles on even more ability and super energy. For the aspects, I use Cryoclasm and Tectonic Harvest. And for the fragments, Whisper of Shards, Whisper of Bonds, and Whisper of Fissures. Cryoclasm just gives you a better slide and lets you slide into crystals to shatter them. Tectonic Harvest creates these shards when you shatter crystals that give you melee energy back. Whisper of Shards gives you a buff to your grenade recharge rate when shattering crystals. Whispering Bonds gives you super energy when defeating frozen targets, but this also applies a negative 10 intellect and discipline. I don't know how I feel about that one yet. Whisper of Fissures just increases the damage and size of the burst of the stasis crystals when you destroy them. Sorry, I had to read some of that off, I know it got a little boring. But you see how all these are flowing together and building your abilities and supers? If you just equip these new seasonal mods without any exotics, Charge Light, or class mods, then collect an elemental well and stand there, they don't do much. But once you start adding this stuff and actually play the game, kill a few ads, they pop. You could even add in some perks on your weapons to buff your abilities and super even more if you wanted to, but at this point it might be overkill. These mods definitely have a place in the game, but I think we're so used to Charge with Light and Warmind builds that these don't seem that interesting to anyone. Or maybe we just need the right people to come along and put some amazing builds together with them. Like everyone's favorite Chad. Now that I'm thinking about it, we have a Titan Stasis build here and I don't know what we should call it. Maybe something like the Cold Shoulder. I don't know. If you think of a good name, put it in the comment section. I hope you found this video helpful and let me know if you would like to see more like this. I'm a potato gamer who usually just makes builds, but I felt like this needed to be talked about. Oh yeah, and don't forget to be a good person to one another. Have a fantastic day. Thank you. I think I'm supposed to tell you to like and subscribe too, but I think everybody knows how to do that by now. If you don't, there's a subscribe button down there and a like button.